Okay, so now you can see what it looks like when we've actually opened out these splits. So I've gone through, there's several long ones along there, which is good. I've got a couple more at the back here. Some of these were a bit nasty actually, because the if you look down there, look, it's very hard to get these in a nice straight line, so I'm going to do these in stages. I'm going to glue some in and then sand them off, and then glue the next ones in after. But as you can see, they're all down the central part of the soundboard, which is good. I like it to be around the bridge part, because it means that the board is going to be stabilised in the centre more. You can also see why we needed to take a very good copy of this transfer, because that goes straight through the middle of it. Not a problem, because that's going to get taken off and we're going to put a new one on, but that is the reason why we needed to make one in the first place. Now what we do next is we take some pre-shaped pieces of shim that I showed you before, a nice shape of shim, and normally what you do is you cut them to length, because all the splits are different lengths obviously, and you fit them. But on this longest one, I can just place it in just to show you how it all fits. So that goes on there like that. It gets glued in. We tap it down. As you can see, that's a fairly nice join. Excuse me while I sneeze. And once the glue is set, we'll get a plane run along there, flatten it off so that it's nice and smooth, and then hopefully once all the varnish is taken off of the soundboard, those will not be too noticeable. Mind you, I quite like them anyway. It shows that we've done a good job. So right, I'll get them all cut to length, glue them in, and we'll see what it looks like after that. So there we have it. That is the first lot of shims in, and now you can actually see just how many there actually are, because they're standing out a little bit more. Yep, all glued in, waiting for the glue to dry now. We don't use animal glue for this particular part, or pearl glue or whatever, but we do use something that sets as hard. We use some stuff called cascamite, which is a hard setting glue. I still really do not like using PVA on soundboards, because if you think about it, the sound waves are travelling through the board, and if they're hitting stuff like this, and you're using PVA, which is something that never actually sets fully, you know, you can stick your fingernail onto PVA that's been there a long time and press, and your fingernail will make an indentation in the glue, whereas stuff like this, the cascamite that we've used, once it's set, it sets rock hard. There's nothing that can penetrate it. It's brittle, if anything. And if you think about the sound waves travelling through something that's a really hard surface, the sound's going to travel through it better. Whereas if you're using PVA, which is a softer glue, even when set, it's going to damp the sound getting across, which is not good for the overall finished product, obviously, because this is your drum. Although it doesn't sound like a drum at the moment because I've got it wedged out. So yeah, but that's one set of shims glued in. Now when that's dried, I can flatten them off and then repair the next set. You see, the reason I didn't do them all at the same time is because you've got that followed by this look very close by. If you try and shim these all at the same time, it'd just be a mess. You'd be pushing the grain that way, and it's just not very good to do it like that. I don't know, I've done that before. That one I could have actually done a little bit further along actually in the end. It did look like it was on a separate grain, so I stopped it there, but actually, in actual fact, I could have carried that on. But never mind, still get it done in the morning, and typically this nice long one here I've got running from all the way across here, and if that shim had been a little bit longer I could have just managed it, but as it was, not quite. Typical, isn't it? So there we go, we'll see what it looks like in the morning. Right, here you go again, look. I've now let the glue set, and I have flattened them off to a certain extent, not quite finished yet, but they're down. Some more have been put in on the second batch of shims, where I couldn't do all of them at the same time. There's still one there, because it went there, then there, then there, and I thought, well, I'll have to do them in 3 separate lots. I've still got them to do, and then when they've glued down, I can then take the varnish off this board, and it ends up looking like that when it's done. There you go, there's one of the shims, and that's with the varnish taken off around it. And I'm going to take off the rest of the varnish, obviously. I'm not going to leave it looking like that, that'd be silly. This varnish is quite good because it comes off. I'm not going to be using this chisel to do the job. I'll be using something a little bit wider, but you can actually just scrape off. Well, you can if you're not holding a phone. It scrapes off and looks like that when you've done it. So, right, there we go then. Another soundboard update. Right, as you can see, this the shims have now been flattened off, and I have started to scrape the varnish off the board. Now this is part that hasn't been done, and if I move over to this side, you'll see this is a part where I have scraped the board, and yeah, obviously it looks a lot nicer with all the polish scraped off. So you can see the difference, can't you? I mean, that polish, we have washed this polish, but it still looks awfully dirty and everything. So having cleaned it up, and that board, once I've got all the polish off, I'll make another video and show you what needs doing next. But that board is looking a lot nicer. So, yes, awesome. Another quick update. Yesterday, while I was doing the shims and widening out the shims, there was a really big bang, and that sometimes happens, so I didn't think anything more of it. Sometimes the board does make a lot of banging noises and cracks and groans when you're doing the shims, because you're releasing some of the pressure that's inside the board. Couldn't see any new cracks opening up, but I didn't think anything more of it. I thought I'd find out what it was later. I have now just literally found out what it was. The split that's opened out in the back. Okay, now we've got a really big movement all the way down there. Look at that. In fact, it's better if I stand back and do it. Look. Madness. Yeah. Oh dear. So it'll make it easier to glue, because we can actually push something in there and bend that part of the rim round so that little part can fit in its groove again. So actually it's a good thing, because it means it's opened up more, we can get more glue in it. But oh well, at least I know what's banging. Excellent. And there you go, one soundboard now completed. Well, I say completed, it still needs to go through several operations before it's ready for spraying, but you can just see, look, where the transfer was originally. It always leaves a little bit of a ghost image behind, but yeah, other than that, all the shims are nice, they're looking very nice. You can't feel them when you run your hand over them, so it's all looking good. From this point, we're going to wash it with meths to bring out the remainder of the polish, anything that's in the grain. It'll be treated with oxalic acid in order to bring it back to its original colour, and then from that stage there's a little bit of wood filling to do, just on minor little nicks and scrapes in the board, just to make sure they're filled, grain filler as well afterwards, so that the grain's nice and sealed. Work its way up through the abrasive paper from 80 right up to 240 grit. And once that's done, quick denib with a tack cloth, and then it'll be all ready for spraying. So I'll get all that done. I won't go video each stage of the performance, but I'll hopefully be able to make a video when it's being sprayed, as long as I'm not the one that's spraying it. If Phil's the one that's going to spray the soundboard, I'll hold my breath, nip into the spray room which is there, and just film him doing some spraying. So we'll see how it goes.